Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reserve Team podcast, your home of everything Australian and New Zealand football. My name is Branson Gibson. I will be your host for this fully loaded W League episode of the show. We will be talking all things W League as we take a look back at the weekend's games before jumping into the first edition of our W League Power Rankings. It's a huge show this week, and joining me, we have four very special guests from the Ladies League. We have Rose Valente, Michelle Morris, and Christina Tradeska. Thank you very much for joining us, Erin. Hello, Rose.
Hi, thank you for having me, guys.
No worries, thanks for joining us. Chrissy, welcome. I hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation of your last name too badly. I might have, but hello.
You did well, Brandon. I'm joking. Thank you for having me on.
No, fair enough. And Michelle, how are you doing?
I am well.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Good to hear. And lastly, but certainly not least, joining us as always on the podcast, we have Sean Matheson. How are you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Mr. Gibson, Michelle's eating in class.
Yeah, she is. She is. I love it. Don't know what's for dinner, but it's a good look. We haven't.
Tell us, Michelle. Tell us what's for dinner.
I'm having fish and salad.
Is it? You need to work it in. Is it from HelloFresh or something, and we can leverage it for money?
No, it's from the chef in my house, known as Monica Morris.
Well done, Monica. Oh, what a queen.
The OG MM.
That's my mum. Yeah, the OG.
Fantastic. There we go. So it's an exotic episode of the Reserve Team podcast. Catering will be a future staple of every Reserve Team podcast episode, I reckon, going forward. But funnily enough, this is not a food show. We are here to talk about football. We are here to talk specifically about the W League. That is all we're going to talk about this week. To kick things off, we're going to take a look back at the games from the weekend. First off the bat, we had the Brisbane Roar taking on Canberra United, who played out a 1-1 draw. There were a couple of absolutely cracking goals in this one. The game started off with a bang. Brisbane took the lead with a ripper strike from Katrina Gorey from outside the box in just the third minute. Grace Maher equalised for Canberra in the 78th minute with her own spectacular goal, lobbing the keeper from halfway. The game ended at 1-1, but Michelle, there were a couple of stunning goals in this one. What did you make of it?
Just let her swallow her food first.
Bangers galore.
Bangers galore. What did you think of the goal? Which goal did you think was better? The one from Gorey for Brisbane or Maher from halfway?
I'm probably going to have to say Grace Maher. That goal is... I remember I was half on my phone watching the game as well, and all of a sudden I just hear everyone screaming, and I saw the replay of it, and I was like, that is unreal. It was so good. It was,
Rose,
good stuff. I was happy.
Fantastic. Sorry, NBN is not great in my household today, so I might interrupt people with some mistimed jump in. So my apologies straight off the bat if I do happen to do that. Rose, what did you make of the goals? Which one was better for you? I mean, Gorey's was sort of more of a pure footballing strike, whereas Maher's was a bit more opportunistic, but, still incredible. Which one did you prefer?
It's hard. It's definitely hard to pick out of the two, but I think I'm going to go with Katrina Gorey. That was just I just put it on replay and I just kept watching it. I loved the control, and I loved how easy she made it look. She made it look easy, but yet she made it look hard as well. She made it look like she made everyone watching just feel like, oh my God, I couldn't do that if I tried in a million years. But yet it looked easy to her. That was sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. So Canberra United, with that result, they sit on top of the league. They've beat Melbourne City and Adelaide. They now have a draw with Brisbane. Chrissy, are they serious contenders this season?
I definitely think they are serious contenders this season. At the beginning of the season, when I saw a few of the signings, I thought they were quite young and they weren't going to be such a threatening team. But a few of the signings for later on down the season, they start to pick up speed. And now seeing them on the park, it's quite impressive.
Sean, what did you make of this game? Brisbane Roar, a lot of talk about them pre-season, about how strong their squad was. 3 games in, they're still yet to win a game. Gorey's goal was actually their first goal of the season. What did you make of this performance from the Roar? And then what are your thoughts on them overall so far?
Yeah, I think Brisbane is still one of the better sides in the competition. They've got so much quality that it doesn't matter who they're playing against. They're going to get chances and opportunities just based on the quality that they have on the park. I think the big challenge for them is that they haven't got that proven goal-scoring finisher. I think, Tamika Yal's very high on the all-time W League scoring charts. It's not her primary position in the middle. And I think Emily Gielnik is also kind of moving into similar spaces. So we haven't seen the best of either of those two yet. Admittedly, both probably could have scored 4 or 5 against Melbourne City in the first game of the season. I will give a huge amount of credit to Canberra, though. I thought Brisbane were on top really for the first half, and then Canberra made the right tactical decisions. I'm slowly becoming a bigger and bigger Vicky Linton fan each and every week, watching this Canberra United side play for the tactical decisions that she's making. The comeback against Adelaide United, the tweaks they made were fantastic. And again, I think this week against Brisbane, they were good value for their goal, and it was a fantastic contest between two very strong sides. I think the big thing that we're noticing in the first few weeks of the W League is potentially the interstate, air quotes, section of the competition at the moment is a lot stronger. And so far, Canberra's passed each of their tests with flying colours. So it'll be interesting to see how long they keep it up. I'll echo the same sentiments that have already come through, where they have kind of a very young side, but a very talented spine. I think Grace Maher's been magnificent. I'm not sure why last year her spell with Melbourne Victory didn't quite work out to the extent that a lot of people hoped. But back in familiar surroundings again, she's been, I think, perhaps amongst the pick of the players so far in the early part of the year. Brisbane will still beat sides. I would expect Brisbane to still be at the top of the table. Like Katrina Gore is playing in a more advanced role than I think we've seen her in the last few seasons, and that's going to take time to develop as well. So, yeah, there's both fantastic sides. Both I would expect to be challenging for the title for the remaining games in the season.
Rose, did you think the scoreline flattered Canberra at all? Brisbane seemed to have more chances. I think they hit the woodwork 3 times in this game. Canberra hit the woodwork themselves, actually. But did you think that the Raw were maybe unlucky to not get all 3 points from this one?
To be honest, I think in the end, a draw was actually well deserved. I was asking myself the same question back and forth throughout the game, and I couldn't quite pick a winner myself. It was an insanely good game. There were times where it was just high tempo. It was just really enjoyable Thursday night football to watch, and I enjoyed it, like every minute of that game. Even if you take out the absolute bangers of goals. So I think draw is well worthwhile. And, even aside from Grace Maher, like I'm pretty sure Heyman still had a good game, and, all the others. I know we always just talk about Michelle Heyman all the time now, but it seems to be like Michelle Heyman's league and we're all just watching it. But yeah, take everything else, like take the bangers aside, brilliant game. So I think they both deserve 1 point.
Taking a look at the next game, it was the Newcastle Jets taking on Sydney FC. It looked like an upset was on the cards in this one, but in the end, Sydney FC were able to get the job done. Newcastle took a surprise lead thanks to a first-half goal from Tara Andrews. The Jets only had 2 wins last season overall, but they weren't able to hang on for their first win of the season. This time, Taylor Ray equalised for Sydney in the second half before Rachel Lowe netted a spectacular winner to give Sydney FC all 3 points. Michelle, I believe you have a pretty interesting story with this one. You were going to the game and then you encountered some difficulty. Did you make the game? And from what you saw of it, what did you think of Sydney FC?
Look, my car's got issues, and so we were driving to the game, and then I had to call NRMA so they could sort me out. Anyways, I did make it to the game. I missed the first 20 minutes of it, but first 20 minutes, that's all right. Like I can survive, So I managed to watch the rest of the game. But look, the thing that is frustrating is the defense, the quality of defense at Sydney FC. Like they're missing Alana Kennedy a lot. Like the players will just like run through, and like that goal that Newcastle scored probably shouldn't have happened. Like it was such a scrappy goal, and like good for them. Like I'm happy they scored, but yeah, like it just, from a defensive perspective, I think it was just really sloppy on their part and probably shouldn't have happened. But yeah, good game to watch. I was a bit disappointed that Remy Simpson got subbed off at the 60th. Not sure what's going on there, but hopefully she can find her goal scoring boots again and start, actually scoring. Because kind of miss that and kind of need that for my fantasy team. But yeah, I think Newcastle were a bit unlucky. in that game.
I love how delayed Bran is.
Am I delayed? Oh no! I'll just stop talking, otherwise my laughs will be mistimed. I'll keep a straight face. Please continue. Sorry.
I actually kind of like it, Bran. I like to think that you just laugh at the not funny parts of everything that everyone says. That's the best part for it.
It's so good.
Yeah, someone makes a joke and then it just takes.
And then Chrissy just cuts out.
Yeah, and then Chrissy cuts out. I think the best part is, like, our very vocal 4 people that listen on Spotify, like, they will no doubt be reaching out on Twitter this week to ask what it is that you're laughing at each time. But maybe it's something secret on the video content. Maybe they have to check out the YouTube channel and see what we're all laughing at any particular time. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, mate. You keep going.
No, that's right. It's just the delayed laugh. You know, it just takes me 5 seconds to understand any joke. Michelle, sorry, go ahead. Here we go.
For the record, I hate Discord because this always happens every time I go on Discord. But I will say this: Sydney FC were very lucky, I think, to come away with the 3 points that game, because it didn't look like the best performance they played. So I think Newcastle should be proud how they played, because they played really well. So yeah.
Chrissy, Michelle just said that she thought Sydney were lucky. It seems like this is the kind of win where they just look back and they go, do you know what? We got all 3 points. We'll move on. Did you notice anything more positive than that they could take away and build from it? Or is it literally just a win and move on kind of game?
I think it is a win and move on kind of game, because we've seen how Sydney have played before in the past. They've also had a good preseason. We know the kind of players that they have on the squad. They're almost unbeatable. Coming up to the derby, I really do think that they're just going to push that one aside and get ready for the next game, since it is going to be a derby. They're not just fighting for 3 points again; they're fighting for the colour of their city, which currently is sky blue. So they don't want to lose that. So it's one of those games where they just pick up and move on.
Rose, what did you make of the performance from the Jets? Where there were promising signs from last season's Wooden Spooners.
Yeah, look, the Jets are having a much better season. Because, I was just having a quick look at the stats. Big shout out to the MyFootball app, which keeps freezing on me. That might be in my phone. But no, I think especially Tara Andrews, who's like, you think of Newcastle Jets, you kind of think of Tara Andrews. She's having a great season, as is, I think, Tessa Tamplin's. I think she's doing, I may be distracted because I really enjoy watching her, and she's got a pink scrunchie or like bow happening this season, so I'm sort of distracted by that. I think that there's some key Newcastle Jets players, and Claire Coelho. I say it slowly to make sure I say it right, not Coelho. That's just me practicing in goals. She's having a great season. I think she's going to keep them in pretty well. That Taylor Ray banger, and even Rachel Lowe. Like, to have Taylor Ray and Rachel Lowe score, I mean, like, look, not take anything away from those 2 players, but, look at some of the big names that Sydney FC have, and then you got those girls out there scoring. Like, that's fantastic for Sydney FC. It's fantastic for a lot of our younger players. Like, I recall Michelle interviewed Taylor Ray. Was it for the Ladies Pod, or was that on our TLL TV?
I think it was TLL TV.
Okay, cool. Yeah, on our YouTube channel. And Taylor just had so much energy. And
it
she
was
was
the podcast,
just,
sorry.
What's pod? Yeah. She was so exciting to listen to. She's just, hungry for football. She loves it. She just wants to talk about football. She's exciting. She's a great player. So it's great to see such, exciting young players like that, just like keen to get out there. And then she goes and scores a whopper of a goal as well. Like, good on her. I know the question originally asked was Newcastle Jets. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're good. They're good, and they will do good.
It was, despite the result, a positive performance from the Jets, no doubt. Moving along to the next game, though, was Adelaide United taking on Perth Glory. Adelaide United coming out 1-0 victors. It was their first win of the season. It was also Perth's first game of the season. A bit surprised there weren't more goals in this one. There were plenty of chances for both sides. Emily Condon scored the winner for Adelaide from the penalty spot. Her shot actually went through the back of the net too. Watching it on TV was very deceptive. You saw her shoot. Everyone started celebrating, but it looked like she missed it. That was good fun. Chrissy, what did you make of this one?
It's sort of a good game to see that Adelaide has finally come up on top with the win, but at the same time, sad to see Perth Glory still struggling. We knew that they were going to struggle this season, just like they did to the one prior. But it's still their first game. And I think they're also struggling with what's happening with COVID at the moment. It's in and out. So we're constantly getting these little outbreaks that are putting Perth Glory at jeopardy of travelling. So I think that's on their shoulders at the moment. So there's stress outside of the park rather than just on the field. So I think that's also contributing to sort of them not being able to get up to speed as we want them to.
Sean, what did you make of Perth? First time we've seen them this season, as Chrissy sort of touched on there, not huge expectations from the Glory this season. It's only one game, but what were some of the things that you might have noticed from this one?
Yeah, look, I'll be completely honest. Like, we spoke about my journey is trying to become, more involved in the W League and trying to learn more about it at the start of the season in our roundtable episode a couple of weeks ago. And to be honest, the Perth Glory side is the one that I recognise the least names in, or the one that I know the least about. Obviously got a very strong record. Sam Kerr, I think, carried that side to, some very good results. They've had some good imports as well from the US, which are obviously no longer available to them. So I think their recruitment strategy is changing quite a bit. And I think they're also getting away from some of the previous coaching structure that had been in place for a while with the likes of Bobby Despotovsky and a few of their ex-A-League players as well in that environment. So for me, it was the couple of players that I saw that I recognised, like Mariana Tabane and a few of their defensive partnerships and their goalkeeper as well, that I was kind of looking at to say, all right, these are going to be the most important players and this is going to make a very strong spine and hopefully this is the team that we see breakout stars for. I don't think they offered too much, to be completely honest, and I'm happy to be corrected. Perth Glory fans, by all means, you can trash me in the comment section below. But I think there was various points throughout that game where they were looking for some sort of relief or some sort of leadership, and everyone was looking at everybody else on the park. I think Perth have some issues to overcome, but obviously the challenge that they've got as well is it's their first game of the season. They're probably behind in terms of conditioning and fitness and whatever else, a lot of the other clubs, mainly because they haven't even been playing other W League or other elite level sides as part of their preseason preparation program. They're effectively cherry picking the best players out of NPL sides over in Western Australia, and then any NPL teams that they're facing in practice matches and whatever else are that much weaker because of that. So I think they've definitely got the biggest challenge in terms of the travel and everything. The other additional portion, I think, like Chrissy mentioned it a moment ago, the difficult situation with interstate travel at the moment. It wouldn't shock me if at some point, given the limited window that we have for the W League and A-League seasons, that we see Perth at some point or another do something similar to Wollongong and base themselves out of another state, just so their fixtures don't fall behind any further than what they are at the moment. So yeah, I think challenges ahead for Perth Glory, but credit to Adelaide, they're very exciting to watch. I think everybody that's on this call at the moment is a massive Cote Rojas fan. She's the best Rojas playing football in Australia anywhere at the moment. And there are a couple of times where she just dribbled past 4 or 5 defenders. So wouldn't shock me to see Adelaide pull off some shock results throughout the course of this season if she can continue playing at a higher level. And obviously a fantastic penalty as well. You got to work hard to get your chances sometimes. That was the one that fell to Adelaide and absolutely smashed that one home. It's always good to see a net bust at the back of the ball. So yeah, good stuff from both sides. We'll see how it looks in the next couple of weeks as to how they continue their momentum off the back of these results. So the other thing I will add, Bran, as well, is we've got to give massive credit to Adelaide because they really could have gone back into their shell after the way they just suffered that defeat against Canberra United, losing the game late on from a winning position. But really, I think they came out and kind of dominated most of this contest as well. So huge credit to them for picking themselves back up and then making it count out on the park the week after. That probably segues nicely into the next match, but I know you want to send ourselves over to our Adelaide correspondent up in the top corner there.
Look, can I swear on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Swearing. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, just because the ladies pod's on FNR now, so we can't really swear. Look,
I mean, could you do it without
gruesome game?
Could you maybe plug the other shows without burying our show? YouTube's a really popular platform, all right? We might not be as fancy as your Football Nation radio, but one day we'll get there.
Of course, and I have complete faith that you will. No, it was a fucking gruesome game. And honestly, Perth Glory, to me, had a fantastic game because Adelaide should have beaten them by more. If it wasn't for that penalty, Adelaide wouldn't have got a goal in it at all, would have gone out a draw. It was not a great display by Adelaide. There's been 7 yellow cards, and 5 of those yellow cards went to Adelaide United, playing up against mainly an NPL team. They were playing some real scrappy football. Like it was scrappy out for a win. It was hard to watch. Another plug for our Football Nation radio show, the Ladies Pod. I spoke with Alex Apakis, the Perth Glory coach. I don't know, 6 months ago or something, when he was with Sydney Uni for the NPL, and they were 4 or 5 games into the season. So they ended up, they were premiers in the NPL NSW. So he was about 4 or 5 seasons in, and I said to him, no joke, I think this was before or after we actually had our proper interview, and I said, you could easily go into the W League and be competitive. I mean, just with your team alone, who you've got there, but him as a coach. And then before you know it, in December, he became Perth Glory coach. So I was absolutely thrilled. We're watching him; he's fantastic what he does. So I knew he was going to do some great things over at Perth Glory, and he's only just joined with them, so he hasn't been able to put together his team, but he's brought some NPL players. So with saying that, I think Perth Glory did really well. Consider I was expecting a lot worse from Perth Glory compared to how well Adelaide United played against Canberra on their game before that. Rojas still, not going to say at all that she had a bad game, but I was expecting a little bit more from her, and I was expecting a little bit more from a couple of others as well. So I personally don't think that it was the best performance that we expected to see out on that day. And I know it was 35 degrees. And 35 degrees in Adelaide is absolute torture. It's just dry and it's so hot. So you know what? I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. And am I mistaken? Did anyone else hear on the commentary that Perth Glory had a 6 a.m. flight to Adelaide? Was that a same day 6 a.m. flight? Anybody else hear that? They said 6 a.m. and I just went, wait, what? There was something about a 6 a.m. flight. And if I know W League finances, it was probably on the Saturday morning. So that would be insane. And then going back to your point of if Perth Glory do a hub, that's all well and good. But don't forget, they're mainly NPL players. They all have studies or jobs to go to. So that'll be a bitch too. Those are all the words I wanted to say. I didn't want to jump in because we're on Discord and it's super delayed. That's me done for Adelaide. I said my words.
I want to hear Sean say Cote Rojas' name again.
Cote Rojas.
You were on a roll. No one wanted to interrupt or get in the way. But you made a number of good points there. A hub that's just it's going to be tricky. It's tough for the A-League. It'd be even tougher for the W League, as you said, with players trying to balance, work and study and other commitments and not necessarily earning the most money playing in the W League. It would be super tricky. And then for the support staff as well, it would be very, very difficult for the league to be able to pull off. But the last game that we're going to talk about is probably the most shocking game of the weekend. Melbourne Victory running out 6-0 victors over Melbourne City. An absolutely stunning performance from the Victory. The Victory had 6 different goal scorers in this one. Annalie Longo, Melina Ayres, Lisa Devanna, Amy Jackson, Catherine Zimmerman, and Kyra Cooney-Cross all found the back of the net. Lisa Devanna's goal was probably the pick of the bunch. I think it was a no-look reverse nutmeg, then a storming run down the left, beat, I think, 3 defenders, just ran past them, and then slotted the ball in the back of the net. Melbourne City were pretty much totally outclassed. They got run off the park. They gave up 4 goals in the last 20 minutes. They looked absolutely spent at the end. Chrissy, what an impressive performance from the Victory.
Oh, God, I can't believe how impressive it was. And to see the last 4 goals in the dying minutes as well, it really just shows how tough it's going to be for Melbourne City to recover from losing majority of their Matildas players. So it's going to be a tough season for them. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I did think that they would be able to rebound from their loss of players, but so far, all of them a little bit in doubt now.
Michelle, what did you make of the game? Were you anticipating, or in your wildest dreams, would you have expected the Victory to win 6-0 in this one?
Oh my God, never. They made Melbourne City look like children. Lisa Devanna alone made Jenna McCormick look like the worst defender. And I felt bad for her. I was like, damn, how are you going to get nutmegged in a game like that and then let her score? rough. But anytime City loses, an angel grows wings. So, and like I don't like Melbourne Victory either. But like I hate City in the W League. I hate City. So, it's good. It's good to see them being
Wow.
humbled and going learning to be the
Peasants.
the bad the plebs of the league. Look, it's crazy because it's a derby, right? And when you're playing in a derby, like you should be wanting to give like your all and not giving up 4 goals in 20 minutes. Like that's insane. And I don't know, something needs to be sorted out. I get that it's a completely new team, but you're a new team with a lot of talented players and big names. And a team like that should not be losing 6-0. So it's disappointing for them, but hilarious for fans on the other side. So
Sean, this might be a bit of a tricky one for you and I to talk about here and remove our personal bias. But what did you make from a City perspective? Because watching the game, to be honest, they look like a bit of a rabble. We saw a couple of new players. Chinatsu Kira. She made a start for Melbourne City, and who was it as well? Sorry, no, Alex Chidiac. Sorry, name was on the tip of my tongue. She came off the bench as well. Is there still hope for Melbourne City that these are just growing pains and they'll figure some things out, or is this a serious concern?
Look, to be completely honest, and like trying to put my bias aside as best I can, we spoke in our W League roundtable that Rado Vidosic didn't have a lot to do last year. He had such a good side that all he had to do was put that side out on the park and they would pretty much take care of stuff themselves. Such was the strength of their first back line and, even their underrated cogs in that machine like Rebecca Stott, like Ivy Lewick, whoever else. Those are phenomenal players that have missed quite a bit. Having said that, Melbourne City were pretty poor against Brisbane. If you remember back to the first half of that game in particular, and really the whole 90 minutes, Brisbane could have had 3 or 4 goals. Again, I think they hit the crossbar of the woodwork a few different times. Tegan Micah's performance was the highlight for Melbourne City. And anytime your goalkeeper's having to be relied upon like that in round 1, you're probably going to struggle for the rest of the year. Then round 2, Canberra were comfortable, I thought, against Melbourne City. City still do have some talented individual players, and in 1v1 situations they can be very good. But the biggest challenge for me and the biggest frustration that I feel bringing the City fan back up again is that we haven't played particularly well, and Rado Vidosic just keeps putting the same 11 out there in the same shape, the same people. I'm not going to criticise the youngsters, players like Tori Tomuth, Sarah Kane, those who are really playing their first W League seasons. We'll give them time. We'll give them benefit of the doubt. Arguably, though, our strongest position is the centre of defence, where Sam Johnson and Jenna McCormack have the most experience of any of our W League squad. So it's a bit frustrating that portion isn't being utilised correctly. I don't think Tegan Allen, as a very experienced player in the W League itself, has played particularly well in midfield and should perhaps be dropping a little bit further back to fill in at fullback or do a job on someone like Davana or whatever else. But look, the big story for this one for me is huge credit to Victory in the way that they played, not just the manner of the goals that they scored, but the way they played for the entire 90 minutes. This could have been 10 or 12 if they wanted it to be. And I'm going to say the controversial piece out first, and then everybody else can give their feedback. Lisa Davana should not be in the Matildas structure ever again. We don't need a 38-year-old at the next World Cup, but Cooney Cross definitely should be. She's an absolute star. I thought she pulled the strings magnificently during the course of that game, and if she continues to play like that for the rest of this season, she should 100% be someone that we build around for the next World Cup cycle.
I'd like to put in and say I don't think anyone is saying that Lisa Davana.
What did you make? Oh, go for it.
Bran will get there eventually.
It's good that the host is watching this on a delay. Like, we can fill him in as to how it went half an hour after.
Sorry, guys.
And to be clear, Michelle, like, there were multiple people on Twitter, and I know Twitter's like a cesspool of random opinions and whatever else, of which I'm the worst person. But there were multiple people on Twitter I saw saying, why wouldn't Lisa Davana get a call up? Why hasn't she had a call up? Whatever else. And I just don't think people are looking far enough in advance to 2023.
I think a lot of the angst people have is from last World Cup possibly, and a lot of the recent Matildas games where she hasn't had any kind of inclusion whatsoever, and we haven't really known what's going on with Lisa Davana. But in the future, it's a bit of a lot of people are talking about like Olympics and stuff, which is like fair enough because that's only a year away. But World Cup is a bit interesting.
I think the biggest thing is that Lisa Davana has served this country for years and has done such an incredible job. And I think the least people want is, like Tim Cahill had a farewell game, that Lisa Davana gets her farewell game as well. And I think for me, that makes sense and that's fair. And yeah, like, look, a lot of people online who, maybe don't know women's football so much will tend to be like, oh yeah, this player's great. Like, she's been in the squad for years. Like, why isn't she getting a call up again? And it's like, she's old, let the kids have a run. But yeah, I think the least that the FA can do is give Lisa Savannah the respect that she deserves and have a farewell game.
Yeah.
So what I'll come back with, and I understand that I'm absolutely going to get torn apart on Twitter in the comment section. That's absolutely fine. Tim Cahill shouldn't have had a farewell game. Tim Cahill shouldn't have gone to the last World Cup. None of that stuff. Like, surely we look at that and learn the lessons from that we made it all about Tim instead of all about the team and all about our best chances. I think the best thing we can do for the Matilda squad and for this next World Cup cycle is to remove distractions like that. Lisa Devanna, whatever your opinions are, quality player, absolute quality player, amongst the best that we've ever produced, 100%. But also is at most W League seasons, like one season at a time, has played for most of the squads, has had fractured relationships with a lot of the management throughout the course of both Matilda's history and when she was at Melbourne City, when Montemurro was there, and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. So I think there's a lot that goes into football outside of what we see on the park. And I think it's always very reactionary, particularly on Twitter as a landscape, to say, I'm going to put out this reactionary opinion based on the quality of her performance, which was fantastic. But there's always 100 different things relating to the balance of a squad and the mentality and whatever else. Like, I don't think anybody should get a farewell game for a national side. I think well, you kind of said it served for the national team, like we've gone to war or something. We haven't really. It's a privilege to be able to play for your national side at any level, and that's how players should treat it, with the respect and dignity that it deserves. No one's owed anything by a national team structure. Your last cap, you should appreciate just the opportunity to be out there on the park, not looking to get a Cahill cash in or anything like that, like Cahill text and all that other random shit. And I hope he's doing well in Qatar or wherever the hell he is at the minute. But yeah, I don't necessarily think any player should have had it. And it's a shame that the precedent was set with Tim Cahill, that we're now expected to do that for all of our players. As fantastic a servant as Lisa Devanna has been, no, she shouldn't be anywhere near the Matilda side up, as far as I'm concerned.
I think Bran has a question.
We'll give him a minute or two for him to catch up.
I've resorted to putting my hand up to try to overcome the tech issues here. Yeah, so I thought that would be... So I am going to... Just moving on very quickly, though, I will say that a farewell game for Lisa Devanna, no future spoilers, but would have huge implications for something. Rose, very quickly, the last thing that we're going to talk about, I'm going to bring it back to this Victory City game. Victory 6-0. What does this mean for them? Are they serious title contenders, or was it just, those goals at the end? It really could have been more, but it felt like those goals at the end, were almost garbage time tackle-ons. After the third one went in, it was just almost as if Melbourne City stopped. So when you look at this result for the Victory, how much can they really take away from it? Are they genuine title contenders, or was this just sort of a one-off huge crazy result?
100% they're title contenders. We could see it as they were building their team. With every new signing that Melbourne Victory had, you're going, holy shit, like, there's another good player and another good player. Like, this is going to be a good team. We didn't quite know how it was going to work, but it's clearly working. And, whatever they're doing out there, they've just got some brilliant players. Melbourne City, the fact that Alex Chidiac is a couple days out of quarantine and she was still able to come off the bench and play, that was still insanely awesome and probably not planned one bit. That was probably purely because it's we're getting thrashed, let's chuck somebody like Chidiac out there. And shout out to Riley Dobson, who also got her she got her 100th game, so she's now on the century. So they both got super subbed on at the same time. Personally, I would have loved to see Riley out there a lot earlier, if not starting. But so, look, Melbourne City have their problems, and they have some big name like Alex Chidiac to now come join them, which will be very interesting and could help them. But Melbourne Victory, I'm putting them right up there with my predictions of, Brisbane Roar taking out the premiership. I would easily put Melbourne Victory right up there now.
Well, the good news is we have a segment coming up later where we can explore and see where exactly we would put the Melbourne Victory. But that does bring to an end our weekend recap of all the W League results. What we're going to do now is take a quick break and then jump into the results of our Hall of Fame nominations from last week. taking a look at our Hall of Fame results from last week, it was a mega show and a mega nominations section last week. We had 4 nominations to join the Hall of Fame. The first was the FFA Cup game between Heidelberg United and Melbourne City at Olympic Village from a few years back. That came in 4th with 7.7% of the vote. In 3rd place was Daryl Braithwaite's song Horses, nominated by you, Sean. That got 15.4% of the vote. In 2nd place, we had the Wollongong Gremlin, receiving 25% of the vote, and receiving a massive 51.9% of the vote was the FFA Cup Duck. That was at the Melbourne Knights versus Adelaide United game last year. Oh, no, it wasn't last year. It was the year before that because we're in 2021. Yes, it's the Melbourne Knights FFA Cup Duck. Yeah, I mean, well-deserved of a spot in the Hall of Fame, I reckon, and it now joins the illustrious crew.
Can I jump in, Bran?
Yeah, go.
I got to see that duck in person and enjoy that duck for the entire game. Yeah.
You were the one who took the photo of the duck, didn't you?
I am the one who took the photo and the videos.
Tell us about it. What was it like?
Well, this guy's walking past with a duck because we were standing there's a whole bunch of us because it was absolutely pissing down with rain that night. It was a classic Melbourne night. Freezing cold rain, so we were just under the whatever you call it, and there's all seats behind us, but we decided to just stand. And so I was with all the other Adelaide United supporters, our little tiny huddle. And this guy's walking past and we're like, does that guy have a duck? I think that guy has a duck. Hey, does that guy have a duck? And then as he's walking, we're like, hey man, you got a duck? And then he started talking to the other 2 guys that were next to me. And so obviously, I took a photo and put it on Twitter because I was like, there's a duck here. And he was telling everyone about his duck. And then as it got towards the end of the game, the duck came back, but the owner was nowhere in sight. So we established that this is a normal thing and that the duck just walks around the place. And the duck was literally standing right underneath me, just chilling. And everyone was obsessed, oh, there's a duck. It was like when there's a dog in school when you're a kid. It was just, everyone's absolutely obsessed with it. And then we saw it walking further down when we were leaving. It just walks around the stadium. But unless the owner was just getting a gyros or something, I don't know. But just a duck just hanging out.
It's a literal Croatian duck with a Hrvatska kit on.
Yeah. It was so great. Loved it. The magic of the FFA Cup.
Actually, his name is
Magic of the Duck.
Magic of the Duck. His name is Crow Patak. Does anyone know what that actually means? I don't know, to be clear.
There must be some Croatian meaning.
Yeah, so apparently...
I would guess they're a Croatian club, so Croatia?
What's the meaning, Sean?
I don't know what the meaning is. I have no idea. But
so you're
apparently...
going to bring that up and not know the meaning?
No, I was asking. I'm here to learn, Rose, from the experts. You're the one that met the duck. You're the one that took the photos of the duck. Apparently, you are responsible and now own the duck. But apparently, this is a long line of ducks. This is a duck dynasty, so to speak, patent pending. But it was the 3rd duck in the generation of ducks that he's brought to the Melbourne Knights. Bran, again, you're reacting way too late to everything that's already been said. Everybody is just looking at the Hall of Fame screen, wondering what you're giggling at. But anyway, so apparently the last duck was the smartest duck that the man had ever had, and he compared him to Elvis Presley, who I did not know was a smart man. I thought he died on the toilet and sung songs.
Think he was smart.
I don't think he was either. But this duck is apparently a lot less smart, but still enjoys going to games every week. So a worthy inductee into the Hall of Fame.
You don't have to be smart to enjoy football.
What was the duck's name again?
Crow Patak. 2 words. CRO. I can Google it.
Yeah. Croat Patak. So Croat is Croatian and Patak is duck in Croatian.
So it's not really any more complicated than Croatian duck. That's excellent.
Literally Croatian duck.
For a Yibisi. Welcome's out there, we'll get that one.
Bless my grandfather for teaching me the different dialects.
Does your grandfather also think Elvis Presley was a really smart man?
Dude, every Balkan was in love with
Dora.
Yeah, my family love Elvis so much.
Elvis and ABBA.
Obsessed.
Oh,
it's an Italian thing too.
ABBA's a banger. The fact that Man After Midnight is still the #1 dance floor filler in the year 2021 is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
Oh, is it Man After Midnight? Gimme.
Yeah.
And it's in brackets or something? Yeah, look, I've never needed a Man After Midnight, but, if it's good to know. Gimme. That's what I need to be telling DJs each weekend.
Exactly. And ABBA is the best. I am all about it. I am 100% on board for an ABBA cast, and I think, you know what? I'm in. We should do it.
Yeah,
100%.
I can edit the header. Like, Bran's not going to catch up to what we're talking about for another 20 minutes anyway, so we might as well just get all our ABBA speak done in now.
Over to you, Bran.
Well, it's quite painful because I hear the topic change. I'm like, I need to get us back on track here as the host. That is my duty. But then I'm just going to end up talking over the top of people. It's very tricky on my end. But I will put an end to the ABBA discussion, as thrilling and captivating and enthralling that it was. We are going to move on to our next segment, which is going to be our power rankings for the W League. So for this segment, we're going to discuss, debate, and contemplate the W League season so far as we go through and create our first W League power rankings of the season. We did the same thing for the A-League in last week's episode. If you missed it, pretty much the way that the power rankings work is it will represent who we think is the best team in the league right now from top to bottom. So 1 obviously being the best team and 9 being the weakest. The rankings will be based on results, performances, form, and also expectations for each individual team. The rankings are not necessarily based on the league table, and there will be varying levels of significance put on results depending on the opponent. So, for example, a win for the victory over the Newcastle Jets, so a team like them, might have less significance in the rankings than a win over, say, a fellow title contender like Brisbane or Sydney. There will surely be plenty to discuss. So with that explained, let's get into it. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Rose, who do you think is the weakest team in the W League so far?
Melbourne City. And purely because Sean was right, because of their fall from grace. You compare them to last season and seasons before that, and then you look at them now. You look at every single part of their play, everything about them. By looking at all the other teams, I can't see myself putting Melbourne City above any one of the other teams. And that even includes Perth Glory with their one game, which they could have easily beat Adelaide United, in my opinion. Going in hard.
Jeez, that is a huge call. Sean, I'm going to throw it to you. Can we really go ahead and put the reigning champions on the bottom of our reserve team power rankings after a 6-0 defeat? It was one result. I mean, what do you think?
Look, it depends. It depends how much weight we want to give to last season. Obviously, the tough part with this, if we're just starting afresh and we're just doing this power ranking, it's just going to become the ladder if we're just going on results so far this year. I think an undefeated season and a premiership championship winning double probably starts them at the top of a pre-season power ranking competition list. Obviously, their performance has been woeful and they were garbage on the weekend, so I don't think they're high up this list at any stretch. I don't think they're as bad as 2 sides in the competition. I don't think they're as bad as Perth, and I don't think they're as bad as Newcastle. Perth, as Rose kind of already mentioned and alluded to in the Adelaide game, they're playing not a great style of football, but that's how they've set themselves up. I already mentioned that they've kind of not had the same preseason program with additional lockdowns and additional weight to get their season started. Newcastle are fighting, and I'll give them a ton of credit for that, given the difficult situation for all Newcastle fans and players at the moment, but they're not as good as Melbourne City are. Melbourne City aren't great, but it would not shock me to see Melbourne City get still a top 5 finish and into the top 4 at some point, probably at the expense of someone who is perhaps more deserving, like Adelaide United or something like that. So, yeah, look, I don't think Melbourne City have fallen that far. I don't think they're high on this list, though, but I don't think they're 9th.
I agree with you. I think that we do have to give some respect to the fact that they were undefeated last season. Sean, who do you think should be on the bottom then?
It's a toss-up for me between Perth Glory and Newcastle Jets. I'm going to go with Perth just because of what I said. While Newcastle are, actually on the bottom of the ladder at the moment, they've at least put up a fight, and they were good value against Sydney for their lead at the time. Sydney's quality and the strength in depth that they have is what shone through. Just the ability to pull on experienced young players, but players that have played in the W League before off the bench is really what got them their result. And I think Michelle kind of mentioned when we spoke about that game in particular, disappointing to see Remy Simpson go off, but they're still not starting Alira Toby. Such as the strength in depth, she'd walk into most of the other W League squads at this point in time. So, yeah, I think Newcastle are showing a lot of fight, and that's the only reason I would put them above Perth Glory at the moment.
Michelle, what about you? Who do you think should be number 9? Perth, or are you going to agree with Rose that Melbourne City should be all the way down the very bottom?
No, I'm going to agree with Sean and go with Perth. I think Perth, they lost Sam Kerr, and after that, it was very hard for them to kind of get anything going last season as well. So, yeah, I think realistically, Perth is going to have a hard time this season. So they've got a very young squad, and it's not going to be easy for them. So, sorry, Perth.
Chrissy, what are your thoughts?
It's a bit of a tough one because Rosa makes a really good point here with how Melbourne City have been playing. It hasn't been exciting and it hasn't been as threatening as they were last season. But they have a side where they have all these players that are still class. They are key players. They are great players individually. It's just going to have to take time for them to start meshing well together so the team actually starts to work well. As for Perth Glory, Rosa also mentioned that it's a side that Alex hasn't been able to put together himself. So they're not gelling as well as we had hoped Perth Glory would be gelling by now since the loss of Sam Kerr and a bunch of other key players as well. For that, I'm solely going to put Perth Glory last at 9 because currently the players, as well as the way that they're playing, it's not going well for them.
They've only had one game. Poor little Perth Glory.
I'm looking at the
poor Perth Glory.
Yeah, but they had Sam Kerr.
He's going to bounce back next week.
They had Sam Kerr for so long and won absolutely nothing. So fuck Perth Glory.
Fuck Sam.
Did absolutely nothing in the grand
I'm going to
final.
chime in here. I think, for the sake of the power rankings, I think the consensus here, I know Rose has gone big guns blazing. I don't think it's won over the consensus of the group. I think we have got Perth coming in at number 9. Based on form and based on last week, you make a good point that City are down the bottom for form reasons, but I think the consensus is that we're going to put the Perth Glory at number 9, which leads us to number 8. Is this where Melbourne City sit, or do we still rank them ahead of Newcastle, a Newcastle team who won 2 games last year? Newcastle, who also haven't won a game this season. Are we saying that Melbourne City are worse than Newcastle, or do we think the Jets are coming in at number 8? What do you think, Chrissy?
I definitely think this is where they sit. To give them a little bit of a ranking high above last, but this is where they sit at the moment because Newcastle Jets have been playing way too well to be sitting at 8. They don't deserve to be put there.
I think you're wrong.
Please explain.
I don't think Newcastle Jets.
Yep, Michelle, take it away. Who do you think's number 8, Michelle? Oh, sorry, Rose. I'm delayed. I can't tell who's
Let
talking.
us argue, Brian.
Let's go, Michelle. Sorry if I cut you off, Rose.
Newcastle Jets
Sorry if I cut
haven't
you
been.
off, Rose, but we'll go with Michelle.
Still going. Newcastle Jets haven't been as terrible as everyone seems to be making them out to be. Yes, they've lost a couple of games, but they're not terrible losses. They actually haven't put out too bad of performances.
Yeah, but they don't have a point.
Yeah, but if we're looking at it from last season,
You don't have a point.
No, they literally have 0 points.
Yeah. I know, but I don't get that. But they're putting out performance. This isn't a ladder, though. This isn't the W League ladder.
This is not. We're not giving away
This is the power rankings.
You know, when you're a junior, right, and someone got a McDonald's voucher that particular week because they tried hard, or participation trophies. The reality is Newcastle probably didn't have a great season last year, and they didn't recruit well in the off-season. They didn't announce their playing roster until about 6 days before the season started. That, I think, puts them low. Look, I can't believe I'm saying this after the shit she gave City earlier, but I'm kind of standing behind Michelle on this one. I would say Newcastle are in 8th. I don't think City are much higher, to be completely honest. We'll talk about Western Sydney and City and where the two of them sit at the moment. But the reality is, like, Newcastle are trying, and Newcastle are trying to do well and win games and play good football, and that deserves a ton of credit. But the fact is they've lost 2, and to be completely clear, and I did mention this earlier, I think the New South Wales group and the teams that are playing each other within New South Wales are weaker than the interstate quality of teams. So Newcastle still has to play Brisbane. Newcastle still has to play Melbourne Victory. Newcastle still has to play Canberra United, and those are much, much stronger tests than I think what they've faced so far.
Yeah, I just think realistically, Newcastle.
And I think one of the things with
Bran, would you let Michelle speak? You've been speaking over everyone all podcast.
She's been trying for
Michelle.
like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I just think Newcastle is look, last season did nothing. This season they won't do anything as well. Like, I like Newcastle, I respect them, but it's just that they're not getting results. You know, you can play well and you can play your best, but if you're coming up with losses and getting no points, then how can you expect them to be higher on this ranking ladder? Like, they can't. They've got 0 points. They have no
but we're
points.
not talking about. But this isn't a ladder. We're talking about like an overall, all factors involved. Their games actually aren't terrible. I don't think they're playing terribly enough to put them so low.
Yeah, but they're also playing terribly to the fact that they can't win the games. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
like they're not winning games.
Here's the way I would put it to you. Like, you're definitely right. And this is the power rankings. You know, we can fluff it all out. And anyway, who wins if they play tomorrow? Or not tomorrow. Let's say they play this weekend. Sorry, who wins? Melbourne City or the Newcastle Jets?
I reckon Jets.
No.
Team anyone but Melbourne City. Fuck Melbourne City.
City would beat the Jets,
No.
100%.
See,
Even
like,
this team, that's so bad.
Claire Coelho's not going to let that happen.
That's not how this works.
Yeah.
No, Claire, let's get Claire on the phone.
it's pronounced
She ain't let that
Quailo.
happen. Quailo, yeah.
So
I'm on it.
Keegan,
All right,
Claire
all right.
Quailo.
Bran, you've got to put this one to a vote,
All
all
right.
right? We probably should have done it for 9th position, but maybe we just do show of hands, and then I'll read out whose hands are what for our inaudible Spotify listeners who refuse to watch video and don't own TVs.
Yep. All right, let's do it.
All right, so everybody voting for 8th position, Newcastle Jets, raise your hands. Good, Bran, good.
Oh, fuck you,
So
bro.
for those of you listening on audio-only platforms, or if you've got us on like a mute background or don't want it stuck in an ad read or whatever else, Bran, Michelle and Sean have all voted for Newcastle Jets. 3-2 victors to go in at 8th position, unless...
My girl Chrissy.
Chrissy, we didn't
My
hear
girl
anything.
Chrissy's backing me up. God bless.
If it had been 2
That's
votes,
right.
she'd have put her hand up. Oh, no, she's from Newcastle. We all have to acknowledge our biases in this
From
one.
Newcastle.
She was a Newcastle fan.
I'm a Jets
Let's just
supporter.
throw Adelaide in there.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Adelaide are doing great.
I might split. We'll have one level for Adelaide United and then one level for Cote Rojas, and then she might be higher up on the platform than everybody else.
You know what? On the ladies' pod, we're going to do our own rankings, and I'm putting Melbourne City on the bottom.
You know what?
Stuff a lot of years.
If you weren't all of our bosses and I didn't want to get my unpaid internship renewed for another year, we would be having much stronger words. All right, Bran, you need to get control of this before
All right.
one of us goes out.
Well, this is quite fiery. This is quite a fiery debate. So we've got Newcastle at number 8. Number 7. Is this where Melbourne City sit? Because the next team who would be in contention for probably sitting there would be the Western Sydney Wanderers. So the ladder doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to the power rankings, but you know the Wanderers have a win. You know the Melbourne City have not looked good. So are we thinking that number 7 is the natural spot for Melbourne City?
So maybe a good way to talk about this one, I think we talk about positions 6 and 7 at the same time, because I would make a case that Western Sydney perhaps sit in 7th and City play in 6th. And the only reason I say that, the only reason I suggest it is because if Melbourne City are as terrible as we're all kind of thinking that they are at the moment, them getting a point away at Brisbane is very impressive. Whereas at the moment, Western Sydney haven't really shown anything. I thought they rolled over against Sydney FC in their initial match, and probably not as bad as the way Melbourne City did against Victory this past weekend. But yeah, I think a case could be made for either one. I would make the case to put Western Sydney in 7th and Melbourne City in 6th, just based on the strength of them having 1 point and the fact that they have played Brisbane, who are exceptional, Canberra, who are exceptional, and Melbourne Victory, who we've now figured out are perhaps one of the title contenders this season. So I think the strength of the teams that they've played.
Does Western Sydney's win over Jets give them anything, or is that because it was Jets? We don't care.
Yeah, the Jets are basically a buy round at this point in the competition.
This Jets and glory hating pod.
You got to stop taking these things so personally. We haven't even mentioned Adelaide yet.
Oh,
That's all right. I diss my own club all the time. It's fine.
I'll cede the floor. I'll hand it to somebody else. Is there anyone else that thinks there are any other teams that should be in 6th or 7th?
Adelaide.
She doesn't mean that. She loves Rowhouse.
I'm forgetting about the teams, but yeah, I think West Sydney's a good shout. They had a really good season last season, though, to be fair. They played well, but then once their imports left and went over to the national team camp in January, that was it for them, basically.
I kind of think we're giving Western Sydney a bit too much credit here, to be honest.
Probably.
I think we need to remember they had one bad game and they've had one decent game.
we're passing it to me now. We've grilled my team. We're going to pass it to me.
Well, yeah, isn't that how it goes? Where do you think? Do you think you should be below Melbourne City, or do you reckon you should be above them?
I think we should be above them. I'm not just saying that because I follow the team. I'm saying it because I haven't been impressed with Melbourne City at the moment. Only one person, and that's, of course, their keeper, but that's because she's had to basically save their ass multiple times. And that's the only reason that I've actually been so invested in watching Melbourne City. It's because of that one person at this current point in time, whereas Western Sydney, even though that they were up against the Jets, and at the current moment, we've all basically, you guys have stabbed the Jets in the back and put them eighth. I think the Jets have been doing quite well to keep their head above water. And even though it was against the Jets, it was a win. I know we're not going off points, but I was quite impressed with the team, the way that they played compared to the way that they played against Sydney FC. I know they're not all the same players, and it's a massive loss to us because we had such a great team that gelled so well last season. But I think this team is definitely gelling a lot better than Melbourne City is. So I'm going to put the Wanderers at 6th and Melbourne City at 7th.
Who's impressed you from the Wanderers, Chrissy?
Rose Galea has definitely impressed me.
Rosie.
Yeah, good old Rosie. She's really, really impressed me, and she's been at the Wanderers for now it's going to be 2 seasons. She didn't get her chance last season much because of our imports, but there's a reason why Dean kept her around, and she's proven why.
That's Dean Heffernan, for anyone who's listening who's not like intimate in Western Sydney Wanderers knowledge and folklore. Look, I'm not going to fight this one too heavy. I know I've come out swinging for Melbourne City. I do think it would be harsh to drop them from potentially 1st down to 6th or to 7th. But yeah, look, I'm happy to put it to a vote if you want, Bran. You're the boss here, even though you're watching this one on a 30-second delay.
Well, look, so my chime in on this as well is I think when you look at the squads, when you look at the team, I think Melbourne City have more upside than the Western Sydney Wanderers. I think you look at their squad, they had a couple of those players in Kira and Chidok in the squad, so once they start, actually starting, I think Melbourne City will improve. I think they have a far higher ceiling Western Sydney, but, the power rankings are based on what would happen right now. But again, I would put the question to the group here is who would win if they played this weekend, Western Sydney or Melbourne City? Who would we back to win that game? And I think that would be the deciding factor over where they sit in the power rankings, to be honest.
I think Western Sydney would probably win because even if Chidiac and Kira come back into that team and have a good season, it doesn't solve the issues that we have, and that's that we can't retain possession in the final third, and that's that we don't have a solid midfield anchor. We took off Sarah Kane at the weekend to try and deal with Kira Cooney-Cross and then asked Alex Chidiac to go and get control of the central midfield, and that's not what she is. So Western Sydney would probably win. That's my honest response as a City fan.
Michelle, Rose, Chrissy, what do you think then?
Yeah, look, I'm thinking the Western Sydney Wanderers are definitely above at 6th and at 7th because I don't think Melbourne City are going to make it through the next match. I still think that the derby is going to slightly mess with them. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see, but that's my opinion.
Do you reckon Chrissy listens to questions before she answers them?
I don't know. We asked her about Western Sydney and then she talked about Newcastle for like 10 minutes. So she could be on the similar delay to Bran.
No, that's just a Chrissy delay. That's just she gets everything. I say, if Melbourne City and Western Sydney had a match tomorrow, Western Sydney would win. Michelle?
Yeah, I think definitely if they were to play Western Sydney, well, I think it'd be a draw, to be honest. I don't know if any team would win. I think it would be a draw. I think that Western Sydney would put up probably more of a fight as compared to City, but I also think back to the first game, City versus Brisbane, and Brisbane was the team that was going to be probably the best team in the W League, and I think for both sides, you could see that they were both struggling. And yes, it was the first game of the season, and they probably didn't have the best preseason due to COVID. But Western Sydney has only versed Sydney and Newcastle. So I don't know. It like Sean was saying before, like the competition outside of New South Wales is probably much stronger compared to what it is like within the state. So I do think that City could probably be better in the long term. I think that they would be a better team, and they will probably have more success this season than the Wanderers will. But I think right now the Wanderers are probably better than City.
Let's let Chrissy have this one, and we'll put Western Sydney in sixth spot, because when Rose Galea has a great season and signs for Sydney FC next year, we need this to be the thing that she looks back on fondly after the year's end.
I'm already in pain as is. Why are you going to do this to me?
I love stealing Wanderers
We
players.
just said
It's
you're
great.
winning. We gave you a win.
Yes, but it's going to follow with a loss that's going to crush me like Jada Wyman's signing did.
So I think at this stage, I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm having major internet issues here. So I think what I'm going to do is honourably pass over the lead role of the discussion to Sean while I try a couple of things on my end. Maybe throw to me, maybe mention me by name, and I can chime in here on and here out. But on my end, the internet is not going well. I do apologise. As the host, I feel like I've let the team down here. I've let the podcast down. I've let myself down. But Sean, if you can maybe lead it from here, I'll chime in when I can. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier, guys.
Mate, I can't be a host and the most controversial guest. That wouldn't work out for anybody. But what we can do is we can take a quick break and go into our Hall of Fame nominations around early, because I think the top 5 discussion, if you thought that it was tough doing 6, 7, 8 and 9, wait until we start getting to some of these top 5 and the hot takes that come along with that.
Alrighty, we are back from the break. I've had a chance to try to address my tech issues. They may or may not have worked, but we will persevere and we will jump straight into our Hall of Fame segment. What we're going to do is get our nominations this week to see who should be...
It's all staying in. It's all got to stay in. People have to know what we suffer through each and every week. So for those of you that are on Spotify and just wonder why you had to listen to 2.5 minutes of coughing, Bran, who's had nothing but technical difficulties all session, just tried to do an intro so outrageous that he choked on it and nearly died in front of us. He's going to have a sip of water now and gather his bearings again and maybe have another go at that one. It was like watching an Olympic gymnast come off a pole vault during qualifying or something like that. Absolutely beautiful, but also a disaster.
Okay.
She's grand.
I don't know what that was, but that was genuinely choking on something rather than just choking on my own words. There was something in my throat then, so that was fun. As Sean said, my 2.5 minutes of coughing and my big sip of water have resolved it. So I will try the intro again. I'll try to get through it all before spoiling it in one way or another. So what we're going to do now is jump into the Hall of Fame segment. We're going to nominate someone to join the reserve team Hall of Fame. We'll put it to a vote. It'll go up on Twitter, so you can interact and let us know who you think deserves a spot in our hallowed hall. Sean, I'll go to you first. You went big with Horses by Daryl Braithwaite last week. What are you nominating this week?
So I've learned my lesson from last week. You reached out to Melbourne Knights Twitter to try and get the Duck over the line and had a commanding victory. I had reached out to Daryl Braithwaite and he blocked me. So anything could happen. And I'm just starting to realise now that like Boomer Twitter is never really going to get behind anything that I have to say anyway. So look, I was going to nominate Gimme by ABBA after I was correctly called out for calling it by the wrong name earlier on, but we'll leave that for a future ABBA cast. This week I am going to nominate Look, it's been a tough one. It's a really difficult point of the season to try and call out the favourite moments of the W League season already, but I'm going to nominate Grace Gutmar's goal from halfway. I didn't really talk about it when we went through that result, but I think to actually pull that out, albeit she did it a couple of months ago, so you know it's not like a fluke or anything like that. She deliberately kind of struck that ball. To pull that out against arguably one of the better sides in the competition from that distance at that point in the game to salvage a point, absolutely world class. I think we'll continue to see both the goals from that competition both the goals from that game throughout the course of the highlights packages for this year. Shout out to Katrina Gore's special as well. But I'm nominating Grace Maher's fantastic goal from this past week of competition.
Yeah, a spectacular finish, spectacular goal, very worthy of a spot in the Hall of Fame. Chrissy, what is your nomination?
I'm going to nominate the infamous hexagon that popped up on the screen during the W League and stayed there for like a good 20 odd seconds, if not more.
I think it was more than 20 seconds.
Was it like, was it a full minute? Was it 2 minutes?
Yeah,
or
it was
something
It was
like
at
that?
least a few minutes.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes or whatever else. There was some phenomenal like Twitter things about the That's All folks coming up for the Warner Brothers
The
stuff from
fact
back in the day.
that we could actually make memes while it was still up, that was a fair amount of time, for sure.
Oh my God, yeah, I think I buzzed in like during the last 20 minutes of the match. I wasn't home that day, but everybody was talking about it on Twitter. I'm like, look, I have to go on and see what the hell everyone else is talking about, and that's what it was.
An iconic moment. The season's only young, and that's already leapt to the top of most memorable moments of the short season so far. Michelle, what's your nomination?
I'm gonna go with. I don't know if anyone saw it, but Lisa Devanna on her Instagram story shared Michelle Heyman's Instagram story, and they called it "Old Girls Gang." So I'm nominating that "Old Girls Gang."
Sorry, I can't tell if I froze again. I can't tell if we froze again. I don't want to speak over around. I'm very afraid of cutting someone off. I've done that a bunch of times. Was that it? Was that the end of the nomination? If so, let's go to Rose.
Okay, I'm nominating a 6-0 win over your crosstown rival. That's my Hall of Fame nomination.
Why am I being so personally attacked in this week's episode, Rose? Like, have I done something to upset you?
Getting in, is it, Sean? That's not even going to make it to the poll.
This is what you get for going on holidays, Sean. You should know that you're not allowed to take mid-season holidays.
You know what? Like, it's going to be really difficult living without the paycheck that comes my way for all the TRT work that we do, but I think I'll be able to scrape 2 pennies together if we decide to go our separate ways. But yeah, can I nominate my holiday as just a 5th option this week?
It's definitely Frozen, hey.
No, that's just how quick he moves. He's like a sloth.
Yeah, it's not going well. So what we're going to do...
Stop me. Why the fuck are we talking?
Yeah, you've seen me on the football pitch, mate. You know it.
10 minutes later.
Yeah, I'll go for the segment. All right, so we've got 4 fantastic nominations there. I had a 5th. Well, I won't use it this week because clearly tech issues will take 500 years for me to get it out. I'll save it for next week. I'll give Sean a chance of actually winning, once again. He hasn't done it in a while, so he'll enjoy the opportunity, no doubt. But what we're going to do is jump back into the top half of our W League Power Ranking. Sean, I believe you're going to lead the discussion here. My tech issues seem to be too much to overcome for the sake of hot, fiery debate. So I believe you're going to lead it. I'm going to hang out. I'll just be plugging away in the background, and feel free to throw to me if you want any input, guys. But take it away, Sean.
Thanks for bringing us up to this point, Brambot. You were coming through like a robot and then a chipmunk for a little bit there, so you're getting all the technical issues this week, which is fantastic to see. But we are going to jump back into the power rankings. We've got the top 5 to do, and as I mentioned earlier, if you thought 6, 7, 8, and 9 were difficult to do, wait until we try and get ourselves to the top 5. Chrissy, I'm going to go to you first on this one. 5th position. This is arguably, I think, the toughest one to call all the way throughout this list. But who would you nominate to sit in that 5th spot just above Western Sydney Wanderers?
Say Adelaide. Rose is going to come to the screen.
No, you're not. You're just trying to stir shit up.
Yeah,
I know you well enough.
Michelle, because Michelle's had her time. She's had her break. She doesn't need to stir it up anymore. She stirred the pot enough. Ooh. All right. So who have we got so far? We've got, of course, good old Glory at the bottom.
I think we need to remind Chrissy what clubs are out there.
You know what? I'm gonna have to say. I'm gonna have to put Adelaide there. I'm sorry.
I don't disagree. So the teams remaining, for those of you that are struggling to keep up and maybe on audio platforms, are in alphabetical order: Adelaide United, Brisbane Roar, Canberra United, Melbourne Victory, and Sydney FC. To kind of echo what you've done, Chrissy, Adelaide haven't been bad, but like we're arguing minutiae at this point because all 5 of those sides have started very strongly. But I don't think Adelaide have had as good a win or as dominant a performance against any of the other sides in the competition. They've really done well, but scraped a lot of the results that they've gotten, including their victory against Perth last time out. Valente, I know you're going to fire up, so we might as well get it out of the way early. Launch your defence for Adelaide United and why they should be higher.
No, I agree. This is realistic. And I don't think that Adelaide are playing any better than your Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, etc. So, no, actually, surprisingly agree.
Hell or Sydney has frozen over. When Bran hears about that one in 35 seconds, he will be absolutely shocked. Michelle, any other objections? Anyone that you think might be in 5th spot, or are you comfortable with Adelaide United as well?
I was going to go Adelaide as well.
Holy shit, it's the first unanimous one we've ever had. And Bran, if you have any objections to Adelaide in 5th, blink twice in 30 seconds time and we'll come back to you then. But heading now into our top 4, these will be our finals positions, and it doesn't get any easier as we go through these sides. Valente, I'll give you the chance here. You are our overlord, our leader. What you say goes. Who would you be putting in 4th position?
Canberra. Gone with Canberra.
Any reason for Canberra in particular?
They're just not as good as the others. It's really as simple as that.
They are currently top of the W League and undefeated, and came back from 2-0 down against Adelaide United. And as far as this podcast has been concerned, Adelaide United cannot be beaten at any point, and Cote Rojas couldn't do anything to stop it. Michelle, what would you put in 4th position? Any objections to it being Canberra?
I would object. I don't think Canberra would be sitting in 4th. I think that they're probably, at this point in time, they're looking at, looking to win the league. They're probably the most informed team and the team that's playing the best. I think I would put in... Well, this is hard.
So I'll put this one out there just for the group. Based on the first 3 games that we've seen from them, Bris Vegas have not been fantastic. I think we looked at their squad, and all of us who are on the She Plays Fantasy League saw that they've got like 4 players on 80k a week, which is the most expensive player you can get. I think for that, and for the fact that they've got Katrina Gorey, Emily Gelnick, Tamika Yallop, Claire Polkinghorn, they should be higher up the league than they are at the moment. But they haven't quite got there. There are some question marks over Jake Goodship and the way that they played last season under him. Chrissy, before I go back to Michelle, give her a chance. What are some of your thoughts as to who should be sitting around this 4th spot? And again, this is where it gets difficult. We're splitting the tiniest little hairs here because all 4 of these sides have started the season very, very strongly.
Wait, are we doing from current performances, or are we going as a season as a whole?
Season as a whole.
Bran has some thoughts. Okay. Melbourne Victory. Bran has a Melbourne Victory.
I was thinking Melbourne Victory as well.
SOS?
So he's just writing stuff up and putting it on the screen. But you know what? I'm actually going to agree with Bran there. But at the same time, I'm also going to touch on what Sean said, because Brisbane Roar, they have such a great team put together. At the same time, they haven't been able to play as well as you think they would with the team that they have. Especially that game that they did play against Melbourne Victory. I think it was last week. It was just a very boring game. Both sides were just playing so dully, and that's the thing. I can't pick between the two at the moment. If I had to put it with what had just happened against Melbourne City in the derby, I'd probably put Brisbane in that spot.
Yeah, and again, these aren't like set in stone. Teams will move up, teams will move down. This is going to be a weekly series on the reserveteam.com.au, so this will change week to week. But I think on the strength of their opening performances, Brisbane are probably less impressive as victory. If Brisbane go out this weekend and beat someone 6-0, entirely different conversation. They probably jump above them. But Michelle, based on what we've kind of talked through, we're probably splitting between Brisbane and victory. I think Canberra has been taken firmly off the table because whoever brought that up is obviously insane. But Michelle, where would you position 4th?
Look, if we're looking at the last couple of weeks, and in terms of performance and just the informedness, I think Brisbane should be 4th. I just think, like you said, they've got such a stellar squad and they have not been able to produce anything. I think that Gorey goal was so lucky, and like it was a great goal. Don't get me wrong, incredible. She was smart to take the shot, but it was a lucky shot, and it was right at the start of the game, and then that game still ended in a draw.
All right, we're going to go to our dial-in correspondent who might try and get a carrier pigeon across to me in Melbourne. Branson, do you have anything that you want to add?
Write it down.
I was just going to chime in that was Brisbane's first goal of the season that they scored. That was their first goal.
Which is a good point, and I think the criticism that I've given them, that's fine, mate. We're gonna play through without you for the rest of it. But you put your hand up. That was a very polite way to do it. But yeah, like I think that's probably their biggest issue at the moment is that for all the talent that they've got in other areas of the pitch, they aren't really creating that many good winning the game chances. Yes, they hit the woodwork a bunch against Melbourne City, but a good side would beat Melbourne City 6-0, as we saw this past weekend. And I think that's what separates the two teams. Again, the thing that we've come back to is if Brisbane and Victory play each other tomorrow, who's probably going to walk into that one with more swagger? A team that scored 1 goal or a team that just blasted their derby opponents for 6? So show of hands, is everybody comfortable with Brisbane in 4th position? All right, so the 3 votes to win that one. 4 votes. Bran has jumped on the thing after his 30-second delay. Valente is the one holdout from there. So we're going to drop Brisbane in.
No, I've changed my mind to Victory. Well, if we've just thrown Canberra off the table, Canberra are going to fall from the top. Can I just say, I'm sorry, love you guys in Canberra. They're going to fall. They're not going to maintain this. They will fall.
That's future spoilers. We will discuss it like adults and we will determine their best position in this ladder, please. I command respect. Bran might have let you guys run amok for the first hour and a half of this podcast, but I will be damned if we're not going to stick exactly.
We did not sign up for not running amok.
I know, and we are operating at the moment on like dial-up internet from the 1990s, so like TRT is not in any better position to say anything. I will now give it to Michelle. 3rd position. We've spoken about Melbourne Victory and kind of splitting them from Brisbane Roar. Is there anyone else that you think, Matt, perhaps sits in 3rd on this table?
Oh, it's I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be between Victory and Sydney FC. Especially like over the last couple of weeks, the last games that they've had. I think Sydney in their last game appeared to struggle a bit. Defensively, they're not doing incredibly. Even in the game against the Wanderers, that defensively it was still a little bit of a struggle. But obviously they've had a good run like the last few seasons, and last year they even still managed to make grand final, which was surprising, to be honest. I don't know. I think realistically, Sydney should be in that 3rd position. I think they're still finding their feet. I think Melbourne Victory going in and beating their rivals 6-0 is a huge thing, and I don't think Sydney's 3-0 win can compare, considering that I do think that the Wanderers actually played really well that game, and a couple of their players had some scoring chances, again due to some lacking in defence for Sydney FC squad. So I'm gonna say Sydney.
I can't believe I'm the person that's having to say this to you, Michelle, but I actually think Sydney are closer to the top. I would counter that Melbourne Victory's game, that was phenomenal. That was as good a performance as we've seen so far, but they did flatter to deceive, I think, against Brisbane. Arguably, that game was the most boring of the ones. And I think they definitely, both sides set up to not lose rather than to try and win the match, when really they probably could have gone a bit more aggressive on both sides of it. I think Victory will probably play differently now, the way they've dismantled City this past weekend. But Sydney FC, if you were going to say, and we have mentioned it a couple of times, that they playing in the weaker side of the conferences at the moment, they are still 2 wins from 2, and they have a game in hand on Canberra. If they win that game in hand, they go top of the league by 2 points. They also have only conceded 1 goal, equal with Brisbane as the best defensive record in the competition. So even at a point where you, as a fan, are saying that their defence is weak, it is still the best in the competition. And I think the loss of Elizabeth Ralston changes their lineup quite a bit. I think if she was fit and available, that back 4 and back 5, including the keeper as well, becomes a lot stronger, a lot more experienced. But they're still formidable, even with that heavy loss. Chrissy, I'll go to you. You are the other opposite side of Sydney to try and balance us out. 3rd spot, Canberra, Victory, Sydney. Where's your gut feeling?
I thought it would go up. In my opinion, I think it would go to Melbourne Victory. Despite the win against the Derby, they haven't been, well, the first 2 games, they haven't been exactly entertaining to watch and up until this Derby. So I'd put Melbourne Victory in 3rd place and then put Sydney in 2nd. Anything
from you, Valente, for 3rd position?
I don't think Sydney need to be very high because Sydney have not been playing like Sydney. I don't think Sydney is as strong as we're led to believe on the ladder. And I would put like arguing with myself in my head, I would put Victory higher than Sydney for that one, and I would also put Canberra. But then Sydney don't deserve to be top, and I don't think Canberra deserve to be top either.
Okay, get it. You hate Canberra.
Yeah, so, all right, so we're going to now label this list. We're not going to have a fourth position. We're going to have equal third place for the remaining teams in this one, according to Rose. But look, it's a tough one. And again, we are arguing the minor details here. I think it's Melbourne Victory in third spot. I think Sydney FC are undefeated. Like, you can only play what's in front of you. Good teams find a way to win football matches. At the moment, Brisbane, who we've just spoken about, they would have drawn with Newcastle after going behind to that early goal, such as the woes they're having finding the back of the net. Sydney dug deep. We spoke about Taylor Ray's goal. Fantastic strike on her wrong foot. Absolutely brilliant. Rachel Lowe's finish was fantastic as well. But, like, that's what good teams do. They had Remy Simpson go off after an hour, as we've already mentioned, and they have the quality in their depth to then still go after teams and to still turn around that result. So it ends up being the right tactical decision in hindsight. Let's put this to a vote, right? Is there anyone that thinks Sydney FC are in third position at the moment?
After hearing you talk, I'm going to change my vote.
Yeah, good. All right, so nobody has voted for Sydney FC in third position. Does anybody think Canberra United is in third position? Nobody has raised their hands for the audio-only listeners. Does anybody think Melbourne Victory is in third position? And I don't know how we got to it, but that is a unanimous vote that Melbourne Victory sits in third position as things currently stand. Come at me, Vuckheads, or whatever you guys want to call yourself in the comment section below, but that's where they're sitting for the moment. If they turn around and beat, well, I think they've got City again this coming Saturday. It might be Sunday. Apologies if I got that wrong. If they win again 6-0, they'll be top of this list next week, I guarantee it. Heading into second position now, this is where it gets challenging. As things currently stand on the W League ladder, I nearly said Hyundai. They're not. It's Westfield. But Canberra United is currently top. 3 games played, 2 wins, 1 draw during that period. A fantastic come from behind victory against Adelaide United in round 1 has really kicked off their campaign. Got to give a huge shout out relating to Canberra United to the broadcast quality as well of the W League fixtures. Viking Park looks like a phenomenal W League venue. The people that they've had commentating games have done a wonderful job as well. It is my favourite team to watch really at the moment from the W League squads. Sydney FC, 2 games played, 2 victories, was challenged against Newcastle last time out. But again, if we're talking about the strength of the 2 different conferences, we would expect Sydney FC to go through their conference undefeated and to beat all the other New South Wales sides. So far, they have done that, albeit at a struggle, and I think they will win this weekend against Western Sydney. Sorry, Chrissy. But I'll go to you first, Valente. Of Sydney FC and Canberra United, which of the 2 do you think would be sitting in second position and which do you think would be top?
I reckon Sydney would be top.
Okay, we'll go to Chrissy to give the Western Sydney view. Chrissy, who would you think was sitting in second position?
Looking at Michelle, waiting for her to turn around and yell at me. I'm going to put it with Sydney second and Canberra up top.
I'm going to go with Canberra second and Sydney up top because I think Canberra's draw kind of holds them back. I don't think that will... I think Sydney's going to win their game in hand, and I think Sydney's going to go through the New South Wales competition having beaten everybody. And then eventually, once lockdown comes, it's going to effectively be like the gunslingers from the interstate competition meeting the best team out of the New South Wales comp, which will be Sydney. And that'll really determine how the title race goes this season. 12 rounds is not that long, so we are already a quarter of the way through the season. Michelle, you are not... let's say, unbiased in your fanship of Sydney FC, but you have been very fair, I think, in your analysis of the squad. Who would you be putting in second position between Canberra and the Sky Blues?
I think I'm so much more critical towards Sydney because I watch them play more and I really focus on how they're playing as well, compared to how I watch other teams play. So that's probably why I am so much more critical towards them because I want them to win and I want them to be the best. But I think, that draw kind of hurts Canberra. And considering that Brisbane isn't the team that everyone thought they would be. But I think if Canberra and Sydney were to verse each other at this current moment, I think Sydney might have a bit of an upper hand. I think Sydney could struggle, but I think they would beat them. So I'd go Sydney top.
All right, so I saw his figure go up there for a brief second. Bran, in a minute or two, when you get this message, is there anything that you'd like to add? He's got paper up. Okay, so Bran has got paper up. Again, horrible for a video and audio platform, but he's gone with Canberra United in second and Sydney FC top. Canberra United second position. Hands up for anyone who thinks that's the right call.
Well, we can't see anything of Chrissy's because she's just a floating head.
I can see Chrissy. Chrissy, for those
really
of you that
does.
didn't know,
She never
lives
puts a
in.
light on.
Well, she lives in a haunted house. People don't know that about her. It's one of those
She
things that we don't
does.
get out. Okay, so the voting for second position, it has been, I think, 4-1. It's hard to see if Chrissy's hand was up, but either then, it doesn't matter. Canberra is going to go into second spot, and Sydney FC top position. What we might do now, though, is which of these ones, looking back on the list, are we the least confident on or the least happy about? For me, I do think Melbourne City is still above Western Sydney Wanderers, despite the fact they have struggled this year. I think Western Sydney have shown less, and I think if they played tomorrow, City would still find a way to grind out a 1-0 win, probably through a penalty, because we can't score otherwise. And Western Sydney, I just don't think create that much against anyone so far. Chrissy, I'll give you the chance to rebuff that, being the Western Sydney fan here. Anyone that jumps out at you on this list that perhaps we've got wrong or perhaps we need to change out?
I'm pretty happy with the way it's been set out at the moment. I think it's all fair with the way the teams have been playing over the last 3 rounds.
Michelle, any that jump out at you as being perhaps a little bit harsh on the team, or perhaps teams that you think could jump up very quickly with a couple more good results?
I just think we can't discredit Melbourne City's season last season. Like, they were undefeated. They were definitely the best team in the W League in a very long time. Yeah, I just don't know if it's me being like, I hate West Sydney, and they should just be at the bottom, or just me just thinking realistically, I think Melbourne City would definitely be able to beat the Wanderers. Even though I did say earlier that I think if they were to play this weekend, I think the Wanderers could, scrap out a win. But I think, I don't know. I think that's probably the hardest one was those two.
I mean, you hate Western Sydney, but you hate City as well. Like, I've seen your Twitter, I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
This is the deviation that I'll give. Dean Heffernan's a better manager than Rado Vidicic, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll give him the nod that way. Rose, any of these that jump out other than Adelaide not being top?
No, and I wouldn't even suggest Adelaide be top. I mean, Adelaide had a shit season last year, so I'm not expecting any miracles this year. I kind of am now that we have Rojas. I'd be grateful if we go somewhere like mid-table or, mid to bottom. But first game in, I was like, we're making finals. I think Sydney FC don't deserve to be top of the table. I think if, for example, if they were to play Melbourne Victory or Brisbane Roar, even though Brisbane Roar haven't come out very well, they are very underwhelming. Brisbane Roar I'm very confident that with those players who have played together a lot and of high status, that they will find their feet very, very soon. And Brisbane Roar are going to be a force within the league. And I think Melbourne Victory are going to continue being a force. So with saying that, I would not put Melbourne Victory or Brisbane Roar below Sydney FC. I think seeing Sydney FC on the top of the ladder is not indicative of how the W League is currently played.
I was just saying that's like this week's power rankings. Like, they will change, won't they?
100%.
Yeah,
so,
but even at this point in stage, though, I don't feel like Sydney FC have been the greatest for us to be saying that they're first.
who do you think has, Rose? Like, who do you think's been the best team from the opening 3 rounds that we've seen?
I can't actually, and I've been trying to think that, to myself. I can't actually figure out who I would put first, but I'm starting to lean towards Melbourne Victory just because of what I said just then about Melbourne Victory and Brisbane Roar being a force, but obviously we wouldn't be putting Brisbane Roar up there because they haven't done anything to sort of to prove that or to show that.
And to be fair, before people start commenting below, or people that will show they only listen to half the show, we praised Melbourne City for their point against Brisbane, but then we've kind of almost taken it as a negative for Melbourne Victory getting a point against Brisbane as well. So I don't know, maybe it's Brisbane standing amongst the coaching staff and the playing groups that people are taking them, they're giving them too much respect, so to speak, when perhaps if they go after it a little bit, there are more points to be there given the way that they're playing. Our man up in the top left-hand corner with tech issues, I don't know if you have the ability to speak or if you've run out of pens or paper or whatever else. Thumbs up, thumbs down, are you happy with the list as it looks?
For the most part, I am. For me, I think that Melbourne City, I agree that Melbourne City should be ahead of the Western Sydney Wanderers, but I am very willing to acknowledge my bias there. So I just think I agree with Michelle that you have to give a lot of respect to just how good they were. I think that, this season, obviously they haven't performed, they haven't gelled yet. I think that is a little bit of an anomaly. That's probably the main thing that I'm sort of taking from that. I still think that overall they are a strong side, but as far as the power rankings go, they've not done anything to exhibit any signs that they're going to be any good yet. It's just sort of going on reputation as well. Just quickly on Brisbane Raw, I initially thought that they should be higher. I would have had them third ahead of the Victory personally, but thinking about it more, I probably think that fourth probably is right. I think, Sean, I think it was you who touched on that maybe our expectations of them were too high. This is a Brisbane side that missed the finals last year as well. So they're not exactly building off the best base. It's not like they were an all-star team last year that got even better. They did have a lot of building to do. So we haven't seen that work yet either. So the only one for me would be Melbourne City ahead of the Wanderers. But then for the most part, otherwise, I think it's good. I think it's tough having Sydney on top because they haven't looked super duper convincing. I don't think, I don't know. It's tough. I think Sydney on top is probably fair. I think Canberra a little bit hard done by to not be on top either, even though I did vote Sydney to be on top. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Bran, I think you went through so much. That was probably about 15 cents. But, that's fine. You've been quiet for a lot of it, so we appreciate you coming on. That does bring us to the end, though. I think we're all pretty proud of the list that we've put together. Of course, this is going to be an ongoing series on the reserveteam.com.au. You can check back in each week. Bran will be writing those articles. You can hit him up on Twitter at Branson Gibson if you got anything absolutely horrifically wrong or if you feel your team is not represented correctly. If you disagree with the list that we've put together, you can also drop it down in the comment section below or hit us up over on Twitter. The best part of all this stuff is the discussion that we get to have with each and every one of you each week as we cover off these different topics. We love talking W League. We love having the Ladies League join us each and every week. Oh, well, not each and every week. They probably need like a month's break before they deal with any of us again, but we'll at least continue to like their tweets from afar as we always do. Bran, I won't cut to you because I know you're having technical difficulties, mate. Your links are in the description below for where people can check out more of your content on this channel and at thereserveteam.com.au. Our queen, our overlord, thank you so much for joining us, Rose. If people want to check out more of your content, where is the best place to see more of you?
The best place to find me is anything to do with the Ladies League. I surprisingly don't stir up the girls as much as you think, and I don't say fuck Melbourne City as much as you think. But you can catch us on the Ladies Pod at 5 p.m. on Football Nation Radio every Wednesday. And we also have the catch-up stream and whatever else. And our videos and everything else that we do is available on theladiesleague.com.
Go and give Rose a follow on Twitter because she is, I think, of the group, the entire 75,000 people that work for the reserve team, most of which are Sydney FC fans. She's the closest to getting that blue tick, and that's one of our targets for 2021. We're getting her that blue tick this year, and we're getting Michelle Morris, featured on the front page of Instagram or something. I don't know what Instagram is as a platform. Is that a thing? You hip young kids. I can't keep up. But Michelle, if people want to check out more of your content, where is the best place to find more of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Michelle A. Morris, or you can find me on Instagram at Michelle Morris TV.
Not to be confused with MMTV Fan, which is a multiple fan account across Twitter. There are a lot of fans of you, and hopefully we'll get their views this particular week. Chrissy, the Queen of Pyro, or the Pyro Master, or whatever we're calling you this particular week. If you're not crying after a derby defeat, where can people check out more of your content?
Like I've said before, if you find Rosie, you eventually find me with all the memes that are basically posted by her. But if you can't find Rosie, just find me on Twitter at @CTricheska. And good luck trying to spell out the last name or write it out. But if you do give it a good try and you do end up finding me, I guess it was meant to be.
Links will be in the description below for those of you who don't speak fluent Balkan and don't have any nonnas or anything like that can teach you how to pronounce that one correctly. We will not forget how Bran butchered that at the start of this particular podcast. But more than anything, guys, Sorry,
just quickly before the ethnics do end up in the comments. Nonna is Italian and Bubba is Balkan. So it's all right, ethnics, I got your back.
Apologies to our large Balkan fan base. We alienated the Scandinavians when we shut down Abachat. We have alienated all of the old NSL fans from me going on to Stoush with SMFC Mike. And now we've left out the Balkans as well. So thanks to the 3 people that are probably hanging around watching this episode, of which Bran and I are 2. We appreciate you guys, as always, listening in with us. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. You will find links in the description below. Feel free to check out the reserveteam.com.au, your home for all things Australian and New Zealand football. But as far as this channel's concerned, as far as this episode's concerned, we just appreciate you guys watching and listening along with us. We'll see you all again next time.